Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we're going to take a look at Alibaba Group, the Chinese e-commerce giant, you all know as Alibaba.
Yeah.
You've probably heard of their platforms like Taobao and Tmall.
Mm-hmm.
They have a massive presence in online retail.
Absolutely.
And right now, there's a ton of buzz
Yeah.
about Alibaba in the investing world.
Oh, yeah. Lots to talk about.
So we're going to unpack both the exciting opportunities and the potential risks that have investors buzzing.
What's really intriguing about Alibaba is their current financial performance.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a mixed bag.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So on the one hand, their Q2 fiscal 2025 revenue report showed a 9.4% year-over-year increase, reaching $33.7 billion.
Wow.
That's a significant jump.
Yeah.
And it definitely beat what analysts were expecting.
Yeah, that's a pretty impressive revenue figure.
Yeah.
And it seems like their active user base is still growing, which suggests strong customer loyalty.
Yeah,
but I've also heard there's been some downward revision of earnings estimates.
That's right.
Really?
Despite the positive revenue, analysts have actually lowered their earnings estimates for the current quarter.
Okay.
The Zacks Consensus Estimate now sits at $3.08 per share, which is a 36.8% decrease.
Oh, my God.
It's just a month ago.
So we've got this tension between impressive revenue growth and less optimistic earnings projections.
Yeah, a little bit of a head-scratcher.
What does this downward revision actually mean for someone considering an investment in Alibaba?
Well, it definitely creates some uncertainty for investors.
Sure.
When earnings estimates are revised downward, it can signal that analysts are less confident about the company's short-term profitability. This can impact the stock's valuation and make some investors hesitant.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then there's the current stock price, which is around $86.30.
Right around there, yeah.
We know Alibaba can be a bit volatile. But I'm seeing this triple bottom pattern emerging on the charts.
Interesting.
For listeners who aren't technical analysis gurus,
right.
Can you explain what that means and why it's creating some buzz?
A triple bottom pattern forms when a stock price tests a support level 3 times without breaking through.
Okay.
It essentially creates 3 distinct lows on the chart. This pattern is often seen as a bullish signal by technical analysts.
Got it.
It suggests that selling pressure is weakening and the stock could be poised for a rebound.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
There's a key resistance level at $95.
Right.
If Alibaba manages to break through that, what kind of potential are we looking at?
If the stock breaks through that $95 resistance level, it could trigger a significant upward move.
Okay.
Some analysts are projecting that the stock could climb to $120 or even higher.
That's impressive.
And there's a lot of anticipation building around some upcoming sales events. Strong financial results from those could definitely fuel that kind of surge.
It seems like Alibaba isn't just relying on its e-commerce dominance.
Right.
They're making some strategic moves, especially in AI and cloud services.
They are, yeah.
Just on January 21st of this year, they launched a whole suite of expanded AI models and development tools.
Really going all in on AI.
What's the thinking behind this push?
Well, this move is about diversifying their revenue streams
Okay.
and tapping into some really high-growth markets.
Makes sense.
Expanding into AI and cloud services allows Alibaba to position itself as a global tech leader, not just an e-commerce company.
Right.
They're clearly looking to expand their presence in overseas markets and compete with major players in the cloud computing space.
So how do these new AI tools actually give them a competitive advantage?
That's a good question.
We hear AI everywhere these days.
Yeah, it's the hot topic.
What makes Alibaba's approach unique or potentially superior?
One key area where they're innovating is in natural language processing.
Okay.
Their new models are significantly faster and more accurate than many competitors.
So they're really ahead of the curve.
I think so.
That's impressive.
Which allows them to offer more responsive and personalized customer service. This is a huge advantage in e-commerce where customer experience is everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And they're also developing AI-powered tools for logistics optimization, which can help them streamline their supply chain and reduce costs.
I see.
In a market as competitive as e-commerce, these efficiency gains can make a big difference.
Right. So they're using AI to improve both the customer-facing side of the business and the behind-the-scenes operations.
Absolutely.
It sounds like a smart, comprehensive approach.
It is, yeah.
But let's zoom out a bit.
Okay.
What are some of the broader trends impacting Alibaba, both positive and potentially negative?
Well, there's a lot of optimism around China's economic outlook for 2025.
Ooh.
The government is expected to roll out some supportive monetary policies, which could create a favorable environment for companies like Alibaba to grow.
That sounds like a positive tailwind for Alibaba.
Yeah, it could be.
But I know there are always risks to consider.
Right.
Especially for a company operating in China.
Of course.
What should investors be keeping an eye on?
One key area of concern is the regulatory landscape in China.
Okay.
It can be complex and unpredictable.
Yeah.
And the government has a history of intervening in ways that can impact businesses. This is a risk that investors simply can't ignore.
Right.
And then, of course, there are broader economic factors that could come into play, like the possibility of a global recession or trade tensions escalating.
So those are definitely things to keep in mind.
Definitely.
Let's talk more about those e-commerce trends we touched on earlier.
Okay.
We're seeing a lot of buzz around AI-driven personalization, social commerce, sustainability, and even augmented reality going mainstream.
It's all happening.
How is Alibaba positioned to capitalize on these trends?
Well, these trends present some amazing opportunities for Alibaba to innovate and capture even more market share.
Got it.
They're already experimenting with AI-powered recommendations that provide a hyper-personalized shopping experience on their platforms.
Interesting.
They're also deeply involved in social commerce, which leverages social media for marketing and sales, a huge trend, especially among younger consumers.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're taking a proactive approach to staying ahead of the curve.
They are.
What about sustainability? Consumers are becoming more and more conscious of the environmental impact of their purchases.
Right. It's a big concern for a lot of people these days.
Yeah, for sure.
Alibaba is definitely aware of this shift in consumer behavior.
Yep.
They've been promoting sustainable brands and investing in green logistics solutions.
Interesting. Like what kinds of things?
Like electric delivery vehicles and more efficient packaging.
I see.
They're even working on a platform that allows consumers to track the carbon footprint of their orders.
Wow. So they're really trying to make a difference.
I think so.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
They're not just reacting to consumer demand.
Right.
They're actively trying to shape it by making sustainability a core part of their brand.
I think that's a smart move.
Okay. Let's shift gears for a moment and talk about something that's been hanging over Chinese tech stocks. The Trump administration's trade policies and increased scrutiny.
Yeah, that was a tough time for a lot of companies.
Even though that administration is over, those policies seem to have had a lasting impact, right?
Absolutely. The trade wars and increased regulatory scrutiny on Chinese companies operating in the U.S. created a lot of uncertainty for investors.
Right.
Sentiment towards Chinese tech stocks took a hit.
Makes sense.
And some of that apprehension still lingers.
Now we have a new U.S. administration in place. Are there concerns that we could see new orders or policies that could impact Alibaba?
Well, it's definitely something to watch.
Yeah.
The U.S.-China relationship is complex.
For sure.
And there's always the possibility of new policies emerging that could affect Alibaba's access to the U.S. market.
Right.
Or make it more expensive for them to operate here.
That would definitely have an impact.
Yeah.
Investors need to stay informed about these geopolitical developments.
Absolutely.
And understand how they could potentially impact Alibaba's business.
It's crucial.
Another factor we need to consider is the role of institutional investors. They hold a significant portion of Alibaba's stock, somewhere around 47%.
That's a big chunk.
How does their involvement influence the stock's performance?
Well, institutional investors, like big investment funds and pension funds, have a lot of sway in the market.
Right.
Their trading patterns can create significant price swings.
I see.
They're closely monitoring Alibaba's performance, looking at things like earnings revisions, market conditions, and geopolitical events.
So they're really keeping a close eye on things.
Absolutely.
If they start selling off their shares, it can trigger a chain reaction and push the stock price down.
Exactly.
On the flip side, if they're confident in Alibaba's future, their buying activity can drive the price up.
It's all about supply and demand.
So Alibaba's fate is, to some extent, tied to the confidence of these institutional investors.
That's right. They're the big players in the game.
Yeah.
And their actions can have a ripple effect on the stock's price.
So as we wrap up our look at Alibaba today, I'm struck by the sheer dynamism of this company.
Yeah.
They're a dominant player in e-commerce.
For sure.
But they're not standing still.
Right.
We're actively pushing into new frontiers like AI and cloud computing.
Yeah, they're really trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Trying to anticipate and shape future trends.
Absolutely.
It feels like they're constantly evolving.
It's that constant drive to innovate that makes Alibaba so fascinating to follow.
Yeah.
They're not afraid to take risks and push boundaries. And that kind of ambition can be incredibly rewarding for investors who believe in their vision.
But at the same time, we've talked about these significant risks that investors need to consider.
Right. It's not all smooth sailing.
The regulatory landscape, the geopolitical tensions, the influence of those massive institutional investors. It's a lot to weigh.
It's a complex equation for sure.
Yeah.
There's no easy answer when it comes to investing in Alibaba.
Right.
It requires careful consideration of both the opportunities and the potential downsides.
That's what makes investing so interesting, isn't it?
It really is.
It's not just about numbers and charts.
Yeah.
It's about trying to understand these complex, dynamic companies and making informed decisions based on all the available information.
Absolutely. It's about assessing the risk.
Yeah.
Evaluating the potential rewards.
Right.
And ultimately deciding whether you believe in the company's long-term vision.
So here's the big question for our listeners.
Okay.
What do you think will be the defining factor in Alibaba's future success?
That's a tough one.
Will it be their innovative spirit and their ability to capitalize on emerging trends like AI and social commerce? Or will it be their ability to navigate the complex geopolitical landscape and the unpredictable regulatory environment?
It's a question worth pondering.
Yeah.
The answer will likely unfold over the coming years and have a significant impact on investors around the world.
All right, everyone, that's our look at Alibaba Group.
That's it for ALIBABA.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
But as always, there's much more to explore.
Always something new with Alibaba.
And we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, jump in the comments.
What stood out to you? What are your predictions for Alibaba's future?
Great. Let us know.
Share your comments below and keep the conversation going.
And if you enjoyed this episode of Investing Talk podcast, please hit that subscribe button and share it with your fellow investors.
We appreciate your support.
Until next time, happy investing.